All right, so take two. But yeah, we're talking about some backbendy stuff, and I think there's a couple of principles that are good to understand if you're challenged with backbends or you'd like to see the ability, maybe you can get into certain backbends, but like camel posture, but there's other progressions and you're just not able to get there. Now, we're just going to mainly emphasize a lot of the spine aspects of it, but there are other elements like in wheel pose. You might have restrictions also happening in your lats and shoulders or some strength issues that are going on. So we're not going to really talk about that. But during our practice today, I'll give you a couple of fixes, like I said, that you can kind of incorporate, and it'll kind of help you understand where you might be limited and where you might be able to do a little bit of work on your own and see your backbends flourish. Why backbends matter? You know, a lot of us anyway, we spend a lot of time in this posture on computers. We're sitting down a lot. The muscles, the anatomy gets pretty tight. And from an energetic perspective though, as we start to really open up through the spine energetically, we start to open up through the heart center, the chakras. Just kind of helps overall in your practice, in your life. All right, so just real quick, I brought this along with me. This is a spine from one of my former students that wasn't listening. So just saying. First up, there's one thing that you have no ability to change, and that's your DNA and your skeleton. You can't change that for the better. These little things on the back, we call it vertebral processes or spinal processes. These are the little things that protrude on your back that you can feel, right? These, you're born with a certain way they grow in terms of the length, all right? And what we call that is bone-on-bone compression, and that happens in a lot of our postures. So when you're working into a backbend, if the processes on your spine are a little longer, when you start to come into your backbend, one of those will start to stack on the other. And if you continue to push that, and you're not really feeling a stretch, it just feels like it won't go and you're trying to force, what happens potentially anyway, is the disc on the other side of the spine can start to protrude, or what we call a bulging, or even worse, a herniated disc. So that's no bueno. All right, so when you're coming into any posture, but especially with backbends, if you're just feeling like, I don't feel a stretch, but I just feel like I can't go any further, you definitely don't want to force it, all right? There's certain parts of the spine we can get a little bit more range out of. The neck and thoracic spine, we can get a little bit more range, both twisting and backbendy, maybe not so much with the lumbar, all right? So I just kind of want to give you a visual of what your spine looks like. So we're talking about compression and why you definitely don't want to force it. Now, outside of that, then we're talking about muscle tension. And again, this is where a lot of us can get restricted in our backbends. Abdominal muscles, kind of starting from there. If we're a little tight in the abdominals, if you train a lot, or again, if we're just sitting a lot, those can get a little restricted. And that's something we can certainly gain more range from there. A little bit deeper though, when we get into some of the deeper layers, this is a biggie right here. We're gonna really work this into our practice today. Psoas and iliacus, iliopsoas are the two together. Now these attach, as you can see, to your lumbar spine. All right, and they kind of attach down here in your inner thigh femur area. So when we sit down a lot, right, these are in a really shortened position, or if you do a lot of repetitive, like cycling and running, walking, those can get pretty tight. And that's when we're in certain, like in our pigeons, and we're trying to reach back and grab our leg and do some back bend, and you feel that really intense stretch through here, or in your warrior ones. If you're feeling a lot of stretch in those positions, or some of the fixes I'm gonna show you today, then you know that's where I've got some work to do. Now, some of that can be remedied through the fixes and the postures, the stretches, poses we're gonna do today. Some of that, if you've got old stuff going on and it's really gristly, really gnarly, I'll show you some other things that might help you work through that as well, all right? But again, this is assuming you don't have any underlying issues or things going on in your body as well. Cool, any questions though? So I just want to show you what that looks like and a little bit about what we're working with, and we'll see what happens today, cool?